I'm Jamie Norpel. Welcome to another episode of Safer Together Chats. Today we are at York County Regional, and I've got Ryan and Corey here to talk to us about an event that happened down in Spring Grove about a month ago. Pretty recent?
It was back in August.
Okay, okay. So Ryan, walk us through. You were called down to a call down in Spring Grove?
So I think, if I remember correctly, the initial shift started with an accident down in Spring Grove. So I was already headed down that way. And at pretty much the same time, another call came in for a subject who was going to threaten to commit suicide. Very little dispatch came over because it was so fresh, but there was mention of a knife to his throat, and there was a therapist or some in-home visit mental health professional on scene with the subject. So my backup, which was up here at the headquarters, was a little bit farther away. Sergeant Sheaffer asked if I could just break free from the traffic accident, which I did.
So you just had to walk away, like you're in the middle of
the
traffic accident?
It was kind of wrapped up, but it was. I could have spent some more time on the crash to get a little bit more information that I had to go back and get later. But
my point, though, is that you were in the middle of trying to problem solve, and now you're called immediately away.
Yes,
so a couple miles away.
More like 2 blocks away.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so the crash happened in Spring Grove Borough, and then this incident came in probably mid-investigation. So yeah, I left the crash and went right to the house while these guys were en route, and kind of didn't know what to expect. I mean, these kind of calls are ones where you get the information, you may get there and it could be nothing, or you get there and it could be something. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it kind of started off with, okay, there's a mental health professional there, or in contact with this guy, so at least I'll get a little bit more information of his background. So when I got to the house, obviously I was let in by the girlfriend and went upstairs. The mental health professional was on the phone and kind of gave me like the weight, the finger. Okay. So I didn't really get anything from him.
Was he in the door? So he was in the door too?
The patient was in the bedroom, and the professional guy was outside the door. And he was on the phone with somebody. I'm assuming 911, but it could have been anybody else. But eventually, we kind of traded places, and I was able to make contact with the guy, the patient, inside the room. And it was pretty clear. He was on the edge of the bed. He was kind of looking at a 45 away from me, and had a
angle away from you.
Yeah, so like not at the door, but away from the door, and never looked at me. Just kind of blank stare towards, I guess. Would be like his TV area, but you could clearly see the knife, pocket knife, maybe 4 inches, but it was open, the blade was against his neck, and it wasn't just like there, it was kind of pushed into his neck. So at that point, it was kind of the what do you do factor, because a lot of things go through your head at that point. Obviously, it's a knife, so if he was to turn it on us, there's a little bit of a gap there that is reactionary, but if it was a gun or something, would things change? In this case, pretty much what I'm thinking is, what am I going to do if this guy cuts his throat? Because there's a lot of blood that's going to come out, and
and you've been trained in first aid, right? But you're not EMS.
I'm not EMS, so that's kind of a vital area. Like, a leg you put pressure on, but a neck, you got to do what you got to do, depending on how severe it is. So luckily that wasn't the case, but I was able to kind of just talk to him, even though he wasn't responding. I forget exactly what I said, but something clicked, and he responded to my question or whatever I asked him, and we rolled from there. So it was almost like there was a barrier, and as soon as I broke through the barrier, he responded, and I was able to kind of just keep talking to him until he kind of came to and kind of snapped out of whatever he was in.
And Corey, were you there for that?
I got there probably about 5 minutes after Ryan. I was a little farther away, so when I got there, I'd walked up the stairs. Our corporal was talking to the female in the residence. I believe she was the girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. Talking to the girlfriend, and I saw Ryan standing in the doorway. So our corporal kind of gave me the information as to what was going on with the call. I could hear Ryan talking to the subject. I went over, stood behind him, and that's when I saw the subject had the knife pressed against his neck. Ryan was talking to him, communicating, and at that point, he had started to respond to some of his questions. So I
Do
didn't.
you remember anything that he said?
Ryan said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the first things when I got there, Ryan was talking about, it was something to do with the gentleman's medication. I don't know if he had run out of medication or was short on it, but Ryan was offering to, hey, whatever you need, like I'll make a phone call, we can try to get your prescription filled, we can call somebody to see if we can resolve this. And that's kind of when he just started talking to him, developing that rapport. I know Ryan had said in Ryan's eyes, something changed and he instantly started talking. When we teach de-escalation, that's somebody going from an active state to a passive state where you break through that barrier and they can finally get out and talk to you, tell you what's going on and whatnot. But yeah, he continued to talk to him and that probably went on for about 10 minutes. Just him sitting there developing conversation. It bounced back and forth between a couple things that even got to a point to where Ryan was telling him about something bad that happened to him that day. And it kind of made me, not necessarily chuckle inside, but he had called me earlier in the day before we even got to work and was like, man, my car broke down. Do you have any resources? Unfortunately, my family owns a car repair shop. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get you hooked up. And then a couple hours later, we're on a call. And Ryan's like, yeah, I understand you're having a bad day. I'm not having the best day either. My car broke down today. And I'm like, yeah, sure did. So he was able to personally relate that, you're having a bad day. We all have bad days. We just got to work through them. So.
And how did you think to share that? You just wanted to be personable?
I mean, that's pretty much like, if you can be personal with people and not a robot, I think they respond more. And that's not just this case, but anywhere, like traffic stops or whatever. Like, you can relate my life to their life, and outside of work, like I'm just like them.
Because police are intimidating. In most situations, they show up, you guys have your badges, you have your vests on, you're really polished, and so it's important to kind of relate to people, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gauge your attitude on the way the situation is. So obviously, if he was combative, I'm not gonna, be as passive as I was. There may have been a different scenario, but he was, he sat there and we were able to just talk like this. So yeah, I don't have a problem sharing my personal issues because it kind of shows him that he's in the same boat as everybody else. I think that my car issue was because his car issue, he had a car issue that he couldn't get to York Hospital to speak to his doctor. And it was a medication filament issue that he couldn't get his meds filled, and then that snowballed into where he was at that moment in time. So that was just a example that came up and it worked. It opened the door to communication, and we went from that to kind of just talking about, if you were to do this, what the outcome would be, and at some point, like I said, he just kind of realized that maybe there's an avenue out there he could explore. And I was offering to help him get to the hospital. We have, the ambulance or whoever took him. So he wised up and kind of...
What kind of things did you say, though? I mean, to say, here's what the outcome would be, but, like, how do you...
I mean, I don't know what someone's intention is to sit in a room by themselves and do that. I've never been in that situation, so I can't sit here and say, like, he had a goal that would help him in some manner. But, I kind of just talked to him. It's just like, I don't really remember the exact verbiage, but it was along the lines of, like, if you do this, I'm going to have to come in there and we're going to, one, probably wrestle for the knife. Two, like, it's not going to be like you're just pushing a power button. There's things that are going to happen. Like, it could be painful for you. I don't think we got into that deep, but it was along those lines. Like, I'm trying to get through to him that your actions are going to dictate what happens to you.
Yeah,
and
they have consequences.
One of his responses was, I don't want to get in trouble. Well, you're not in trouble because you're not doing anything illegal. So
is that true, right? He wasn't doing anything.
He wasn't. I mean, sitting with a knife to your throat, it's not illegal. But once I kind of explained that to him, then he was a little bit more receptive into, okay, well, if I'm not in trouble, this guy actually can help me because we do have avenues, we do have phone numbers, and we can get you to the hospital and kind of bypass, the waiting room so you can get in.
Just police officers, you don't just do traffic stops and give people tickets. You
No, not at
prevent
all.
people from dying by suicide, you help them get their
Yeah.
medication, you send them to the hospital.
We wear many hats, and they always preach that, but this is one where you have to be the hat of somebody's friend. So when I told him, yeah, I can get you to the hospital, then I'm not going to lie to the guy. So that's what we did. And of course, obviously, because he goes in with us or with ambulance, he can get there quicker. He kind of bypass to get to who he needs to talk to. So yeah.
Corey, you saw some of the de-escalation techniques because you're trained in de-escalation, right? So can you walk us through then, because Ryan's not trained, but yet he naturally did a lot of the things that you find on the force, whether it's through the training that you guys do through de-escalation or just through years of experience. So what kind of things did you see?
Probably the first thing I noticed was just Ryan's body language. So they teach it in the academy, we teach it in de-escalation. Like when you first step out of your car, if you were to call 911 and I step out, the way I step out of my car, the way I approach you can give you some type of judgment against me just based on my body language and how I'm acting. Whether I get out of my car and wave and say, hey, how are you, how's your day? Or get out of my car and say, what do you need? Just real short and brief. So when I got up to the top of the stairs, I saw Officer Henry standing in the doorway. He was relaxed. He was just kind of leaning in the doorway. His voice was nice and calm and steady. And he was just talking to the gentleman. And I think with that guy, and Officer Henry, I believe he picked up on it. It was a bunch of issues that had compiled over the last couple, days, weeks for him. And it was just kind of peeling back them layers of like, hey, how can we get through, this problem or that problem? And what is the actual root of this? Like, why are you doing that? With that, his body language, he kept that, like I said, kept the voice at the same level. And, he brought back as he said, the personalization. He made it personal for him. Hey, you're having problems, so am I. Like, I think one of the things he said that I took notice to, Ryan told him like, hey, if you do what you're going to do today, you don't know what tomorrow holds. Tomorrow might be a better day. So maybe, we can get you the help today and let's see if tomorrow is a better day. Kind of giving them an option as to what he can do.
Wow. Do you feel like a lot of people go into policing for many different reasons, but helping people has to be at top of the list because in this situation, you were there to help this person?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's answer when they get hired is, why do you want to be a cop? And they're always like, to help people. But there's many aspects of helping somebody, This is one where, and I think I told this guy, like, you're in a hole, you need help out. I'm here, I can help you out. And it sounds like he was able to get out of that hole, and I haven't heard about where he's at, but he did get the patient treatment that he needs. But that goes for any case. I mean, you could show up to a domestic, you're there to help whoever needs it. Maybe that is making an arrest, and that's what everybody looks at. It's the negative, oh, you're there to just arrest somebody. But it may be that somebody needed help, and you making that arrest removes the issue from the residents. So we do help people. It's just in a different aspect every call.
Yeah.
This is one where it was more a verbal help that we can get him to a professional that is more well-trained than we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I mean, someone's alive because of the time that you took to talk to someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's great. So you then, you pass things off to a co-responder. So co-responder is someone who works within your department, but also works for WellSpan, and they're able to connect people that you interact with that might need a little extra support services.
Yep.
So is this a case where you pass this person off to the co-responder?
So for this case, anytime we do any type of mental health call, our co-responder, we either notify them by phone, email, or they get a copy of our police report to check it out. I don't know if I didn't notify her by phone, but she likely got a copy of the police report and probably followed up with the hospital to see what treatment they did down there.
Yeah. Because they do like hundreds of calls and check-ins.
Absolutely.
The co-responders that we have. Yeah.
I think within a few days he had a mental health hearing and agreed to an inpatient program. So I don't know what Angie's involvement was with him, but it moved very quickly for him. And I think that's ultimately where he wanted to go, was to an inpatient. If I'm not mistaken, he had a stay inpatient prior to our contact, so he kind of maybe knew that would help him.
Yeah, was already kind of in the system.
Yeah. if I'm not mistaken, this isn't the first time he's done something similar to that. So.
And then after this happened, you then had to go back on your shift and continue to take calls?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most serious call that I've been on, so I'm not going to say that like I don't remember it, but you have to kind of put it back and then go to the next call. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the job.
You guys are the ultimate compartmentalizers to take something that happens to you and then put it in a box in your head and then continue just moving on with your day. And
You kind of have to have a short memory of certain things.
yeah. Well, and then so how do you combat empathy fatigue then? Like how do you continue to care and want to show up and want to continue to help people?
We always show up, but not every call is like that one. So, the next call could be just a parking complaint or something not as involved. So, I mean.
So you find ways to fill your cup.
We don't have to find it, it's there. Yeah. We get the calls, that's for sure. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Anything else?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys. That was awesome.